She waited for hours that night. Not because she had to. Not because anyone asked her to. But because her heart wouldn't let her leave. It was raining, softly at first. Then harder. But she didn't care. She sat there, in silence, listening to the ticking of time. Wondering if he'd come. Wondering if he remembered. That night was supposed to be different. That night was the night everything could have changed. And yet, no one ever knew what really happened. Not even the cameras. Not even her closest friends. Because Demet Özdemir never told anyone. Until now. Demet Özdemir, the actress, the icon, the woman whose smile lights up millions of screens, has always been more than just a star. Behind her elegance and charm, there's a woman who has lived through moments of quiet heartbreak, secret hopes, and silent waiting. We've seen her dance. We've seen her fall in love on screen. We've seen her become the face of powerful women everywhere. But what we haven't seen is what she lived in private. And maybe that's because some stories are too fragile to share. Until one day, you just can't keep them in anymore. This is one of those stories. It all began when Demet was at the height of her fame. Everywhere she went, fans followed. Cameras flashed. People whispered. She was starring in hit series, traveling across countries, gracing the covers of international magazines. Her name was being mentioned with actors like Can Yaman, and their on-screen chemistry had become legendary. But while the world was obsessed with their love story on TV, Demet was living a different story behind closed doors. One filled with uncertainty. Because off-screen, life was messier. More raw. More real. And that's the part we never got to see. One night, Demet made a decision. She had something she needed to say. Something she had been holding in for too long. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was both. But she chose a place that meant something to them. A quiet restaurant where they had once laughed like children. Where the world had felt still, just for them. She arrived early. Her heart was pounding. She had imagined every version of that night. Would he be surprised? Would he be angry? Would he smile? But most importantly, would he come? The waiter came by. She smiled and said she was waiting for someone. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Then 3. People came and went. The music played. The rain kept falling. She didn't touch her coffee. She barely moved. And as each minute passed, her mind played tricks. Maybe something happened. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he never planned to come. But still, she stayed. Because some part of her, maybe the part that still believed in their story, hoped he'd walk in at the last minute. Like in a movie. But real life doesn't always follow a script. He never showed up. Demet paid the bill and walked out into the rain, her face calm, her eyes full of silence. Not tears. Not anger. Just silence. And she never spoke about that night. Until recently, during a rare, deeply emotional moment in an interview, Demet opened up. And what she shared wasn't about blame. It wasn't about painting anyone as a villain. It was about something else entirely. It was about what it feels like to wait, for someone, for love, for closure. And to not get the ending you were hoping for. She said, "Sometimes, we think people know what we feel. But they don't. We assume they can read our silence. But they can't." That night, I waited because I needed to believe in us one more time. Even if it hurt. Even if I knew, he probably wouldn't come. The room was still. The interviewer was speechless. And millions watching from home felt something shift. Because we've all waited. We've all believed, just one more time. And Demet, in her vulnerability, reminded us that even the strongest women have moments when they just hope. After that night, something changed in her. She stopped chasing answers. She started chasing peace. She traveled. She worked. She found new passions, new friendships, a new sense of self. But the memory of that night stayed. Because that's the thing about unspoken goodbyes. They echo. In hotel rooms. In song lyrics. In late-night thoughts you never say out loud. And no matter how far you go, they find you. Demet once wrote in her journal, "The hardest part isn't that he didn't come. It's that I kept imagining he would." And maybe that's what makes this story so human. Not the heartbreak. Not the missed moment. But the hope. That small, stubborn flame inside all of us. That keeps glowing even when the world tries to blow it out. Today, Demet is admired not just for her talent, but for her honesty. She speaks not to impress, but to connect. She's shown that strength isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about telling the truth, even when it hurts. She's shown that silence can speak louder than words. And that some of the most important stories are the ones we're afraid to tell. Until we do. And maybe that's why her fans love her so deeply. Because in her, they see someone who has lived through the quiet heartbreaks, the long nights, the unanswered texts. And still shines. She's not just a celebrity. She's a mirror. A reminder that we're not alone in the waiting. In the hoping. In the healing. So if you've ever waited for a message, a call, a knock on the door that never came, know that Demet has too. If you've ever sat in silence, holding back tears while the world kept moving around you, she's been there. And she made it through. So will you. Because sometimes, the people who wait the longest are the ones with the most love to give. And the strongest hearts are the ones that broke, but still stayed open. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We share the real stories behind the stars. The ones that happen after the cameras stop rolling. Because when the lights fade and the stage is empty, that's when the truth begins to speak. Not in loud words, not in headlines, but in the quiet spaces we often overlook. In a glance that lasts a second too long. In a message never sent. In a night spent waiting, with no reply. And sometimes, the truth doesn't shout. It whispers. It whispers in silence. In the pauses between sentences. In the ache that lingers even after the tears stop. Because what matters most isn't always seen on screen. It's felt. And if you felt something tonight, just know, you're not alone.